Microaggressions. We're back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kandron. That's Deja.
Hey.
If you're new here, welcome, welcome me, welcome you.
I mean, it's Palm Sunday, y'all.
It is Palm Sunday, that the day we're recording. You'll see this after.
Yeah.
But
it's
yeah, we do
a Southern thing. I don't remember that growing up in Jersey.
A Christian thing. I don't know, but I think some of this stuff is like getting bigger. But we definitely did Palm Sunday growing up.
Yeah. Random aside. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah. Baptist. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. Yeah. If you've never been here before, we talk about pop culture, real life, and the cross section between the two. So today we're continuing our conversation about the workplace, and we're talking about psychological safety in the workplace. So I will start the conversation. And so a lot of people are returning to work. And I was actually reading this article, or I saw this survey or something. I'm gonna try to find it and drop it in the links. But basically, like, not the only people, proportionately, based on those answers, the people who want to go back to work the most are the white men. And the rest of the people who want to go back to work the least are the Black men. And everybody else is sort of somewhere in between, but don't nobody really want to go back to work, like, for the most, not full-time in office. And this
was contrary to what Biden talking about.
Yeah. And this was like a survey for full-time in office. And like, I've also read some other things, basically like, we don't want to go back because like we don't deal with microaggressions at home. Like,
hello, it's a level of safety from your house. You can really connect and get away from people.
Yeah. And so I actually heard that on Therapy for Black Girls, and I think I touched on this last conversation, so I'll put that in the description box as well. But yeah, just like, we don't have to deal with the mess from home.
Hello, that part. I've been back for a while, so I can't say that I have had the same experience in that way of like the jarring adjustment, because we weren't really home that long. For me, I think the jarring adjustment has been how we have rapidly snatched away all the precautions for Coviana. And like just kind of processing through that as all the things came down, it's just kind of like, this is weird. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Because once it was super, like serious and deadly, and now it's like, okay, all right, everything's fine. And like, then you got good girl Kadisha Dewan Sarasota with a C.
Oh.
I'm just using all types of code names for this stuff because it's flagged on YouTube land. But if you put the initials together, you got what I'm talking about, who changed it from 14 days to then 10 days to now 5 days.
Yeah. I agree.
All that stuff was unnerving.
Yeah. And obviously with you having been at work at this point for a while, and having to live through the changes, even with my job, it's like, again, without giving too much, the testing protocol was it was a lot at first, and I was like, this is too much, and then they rolled it all the way back, and I was like, oh, now this is too little. Like, there wasn't a middle step where I was just like, okay, this is just right. No, they went from like a lot to like practically nothing, and I was just like, oh,
that shit is crazy to me.
I don't know how we feel about that, especially knowing like some transmission is asymptomatic and all of that stuff. Like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. And my thing too is like the psychological safety the lack of psychological safety that some of us have had. I have not been, as it relates to Coviana, I've not been like extremely nervous or anything like that, as I was probably earlier on. But like it's uncomfortable, to say the least, to know that like now your company is just rolling with the punches that the other system, the mandating system is operating under. And I get it makes sense to go by what they're saying, but when what they saying don't make sense, I don't know. I just feel like it just happened too fast. And I think that from a mental health standpoint, that was a lot, especially for those of us who have remained customer facing, and then those that are just in general customer facing. Like,
customer facing piece is like really, that's really a lot. I am not customer facing, but
and all that.
Yeah, which is I'm grateful for right now. But like, my workspace is very like closed, so like no ventilation. We're like in the middle of the floor, like no nothing. So
that's unnerving.
It's a little unnerving, to that extent. But yeah, any other like psychological safety sort of things, I will say I am very grateful for this particular office experience that I'm having now. Well, I had before COVID. They hired a bunch of new people, so I don't know how that works and how these people are going to like kind of fit in with the function. But prior to us going, leaving work, and working from home for the last 2 years, it was very black and brown, like to the point where I'm not a big like potluck person, or if I'm gonna potluck, I'm like, what you make? I trust you.
Right. That is very black. I do that. I've done that too. Let me correct myself.
Yeah, but because like our environment was just like, oh, I trust all y'all. I like all y'all. It was very much like, like we had jerk chicken. The girls were like grilling ribs. Like the people were making like anything you can think of. It was just very like very black and brown, like you might get you some like Haitian black rice in there. You might also get you a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like it was some of everything. So like I am fortunate in that environment that I have not dealt with microaggressions, but I've certainly dealt with them from people outside of our office, in terms of like I live in y'all know I live in South Florida. So like this idea of like we ain't doing nothing, or like we're going to the beach during our lunch, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. Like that's rude as hell to think that because we
trying to get fired.
Yeah, like because we live in South Florida that we're like lazy or not working or whatever. Like we're putting up the same numbers as everybody else, or
that's crazy.
Yeah, just stuff like that. Like it's just wild that you would even part your lips to say stuff like that, but people do it. People say stuff like that. Or again, and we talked a lot about D and I on our last conversation, so I'll link that here, but now I won't rehash that too much. But like certain words you should not use to describe Black people in the workplace, they are offensive. And when we hear them, our ears perk up like one more step, and I swear to God, I'll call HR. Like,
I mean, I've actually had those things said to me, and HR was called. And for me, in my experience, I'm sure that the HR person did not perceive me to be pleasant.
Yeah.
But all things considered, if you had been basically, if you had received microaggressions to you about your character from someone else, you would feel a way about it too. So like whatever.
Some of those words being, of course, the aggressive, the defensive, that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Oh, calling Black women loud.
Yeah.
I've absolutely been called that, and it said that I had acted in such a manner. I'm like, baby, I don't raise my voice. Like, I'm loud in general, just kikiing with other people. But if I'm having a back and forth with someone or we're having some sort of disagreement, I am not loud intentionally. So for you to sit here and say that shit about me, baby, I was done. I was done. I was like, I'm not going to have this conversation with you and I can't care about how you feel.
Yeah.
Like,
and like those are things that I feel like I don't know if people are training on it or like what,
no,
but they should be.
My opinion is that everyone that is speaking to the associates when things happen don't look like any of us.
For the most
part. So
part.
that's problem number one for the corporation that I work in. I also, my experience as it relates to what happened, it was like nothing happened. Basically, I was told that you all had just, it sounds like you all had just had a disagreement.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I mean by like there needs to be training on every level. Like even HR needs to know like what are the buzzwords, because something that you say to one person, it hits different when you say it to a Black person.
Hello. And like for me to have talked to other teammates that are in other departments of the company, and they also be people of color, and I'm not speaking about being Black or Spanish or those, you know, those two groups. Also, I've had Asian coworkers say to me that like they had some things that had happened and they reported it to AR and it was dismissed as it being something, you know, minute.
Basically, like it's a personal issue, and it's like it's not though.
That is very disrespectful. That does not create psychological safety. For me personally, I felt like you can't handle, because I spoke to two different people, both of whom were not people of color. And I felt like neither one of you can understand what it is that I'm saying because it doesn't compute. Because when it came down to it, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. And I'm just kind of like, and it's interesting that the other piece of it is like nothing happens and then you watch people go off into other areas where they'll be overseeing people who look like me. And there's been nothing
to like rectify that behavior or nothing to adjust their language or anything like that. And it, like you said, it can be very jarring and make you feel incredibly emotionally unsafe, and like you have to walk on eggshells about everything that you say. And or have a series of additional uncomfortable conversations to try to clarify yourself or to try to, you know, raise an issue. Like I've certainly had to have some of those conversations of like, listen, I think we're getting off on the wrong foot here, or I think that that conversation was too charged, and here's what I meant, and here are my concerns, and I don't appreciate being spoken to X, Y, and Z. So let me try to bring the heat temperature down. And constantly having to do those sorts of things to like
exhausting.
It is exhausting. It is actually exhausting. And I know I previously talked about this experience of like, again, trying to be helpful or bring something to the table, and I was just kind of like, well, I don't really care about the outcome, like, you know, it doesn't really matter to me, I'm just trying to be helpful and bring something to the table. And like people are like can be super aggressive when you say like, you know, like they can perceive it very aggressively whether you even care or not. And just because it's you that's bringing it, and it's like, this is too much. This is actually too much. And here's the other thing that I think is a cultural competency issue. A lot of I will say all Black, not all Black people, obviously. Some people really care about climbing the corporate ladder and putting on the good face and all of that stuff. But a lot of us are just there for our check, and we're not all that invested in the job. And like, and that should be okay. Like, that's the other thing. I don't like this idea of like, you're lesser than if you're not invested in this job. And it's like, I have a real life. I have a real life, and this job is not it. This is a means to live the lifestyle that I would like to live, or a means to try to reach a certain level financially. But this is not my life. And this attitude of like, like you have to be invested here and willing to work the long hours and do the thing in order to get ahead. It's just like, girl, I just work here. What are you talking about? I actually started following this guy. His name is something. His name is DeAndre, but I can't remember his TikTok handle. I think it's I am Dre something. I'm gonna leave it down below. But he like,
oh yes, I love him. The young light skinned guy
cracks me up. He's just like his perspective is from like a Gen Z, but like
he is so funny to me, baby.
Is so funny to me. And I'm like, and somebody in one of his comment sections was like, millennials walk so Gen Z could run because
y'all running.
I am very much an Xennial. Like I usually skew more toward the X, but like on this work stuff, I am very Z. Like because everything DeAndre be saying, I'll be like, go off. Because he'll be like, no, I don't wear multiple hats. I don't do multiple. I only have one head. So I only have one hat. So the hat, he'll hold up his phone. He'll be like, this job description. This is the hat. Like this is the hat. This is the hat that I wear. I don't wear multiple. And I'm like, yes, DeAndre, go off.
That.
And like that's. I feel like that's really it could be generational, but also cultural of like.
It's your girl, Harry June Cookie. You now rocking out with DJ Trey. It's a movie.
Part of music, 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 part of music.